Hello, welcome to the training video for data entry and data mapping. My name is Mike Lowry. I'm going to go through two things. Once you've observed your counts, you're going to need to enter the data. So in this training video, I'll go over how to enter the data into a spreadsheet. After that, I'll explain how you will map the data in ArcGIS. The tools for doing these two tasks can be found in a folder called Bicycle and Pedestrian Toolbox. Within that folder, there are three subfolders: the data entry Excel form, the data mapping GIS tool, and a folder that has instructions. Today's training video is basically going over what the instructions have to say. In the data entry Excel form, there is a template for the file that you will use to enter data. The first step is to make a copy of that. So I've created over here is the location where I want to put my count data. And you'll see I've got the Moscow count data there. I'm going to show some of that as an example later, but let's pretend like we're creating data for a new city. So we say my city, and then we could say count data. And that will be your folder where you'll put all of your files. Now you need a different Excel file for every street intersection. So I'm going to copy this and paste it there, and Main. So that would be the corner of 6th Street and Main Street. And then I'm going to do another one. This will be, I'll rename it. This will be Mountain View, and White Avenue. Okay, so we would do this for every intersection that we have data for. And then once we've created all of the files, now we can start entering data. So I'll open up one. Let's do 6th and Main. And the first time you open up a file, every time, it'll have this warning because there's computer code involved with how the data is entered. So you need to say enable content, enable the macro that's doing the data entry. So we click on that. Let's fill out the orange information below and then click on the blue data entry button to enter data. So we'll put our city here. This is Moscow. And the location ID. The location ID needs to be an integer, so we'll say this is location 51. You can make that up, whatever you want your location to be. And this is North Street, North-South Street was Main Street, and the East-West Street is 6th Street. That doesn't need to be exact. Not every street is perfectly north-south and east-west. Should be close enough. Then you need the latitude and longitude. There's a lot of ways to get that. One way to do it is using Google. Let me show you how you do it in Google. If you go to your city or community and just search for it, it'll bring up over here on the right a map for Google Maps. That's what we want. So we want Google Maps. Then you zoom into your intersection. In this case, we were doing 6th and Main. That's right here. And once you've zoomed in pretty good amount, right-click on the location where you want to know the latitude and longitude, and this dialog box will come up, and we want this button right here that says what's here. So you click on what's here. It puts a green arrow there with the latitude and longitude, and that same value is up here in the search box. So the first number is the latitude. Remember, lat is flat. We're at the parallel of the 46th parallel up in Moscow, and we're going to go back and we'll put that in as the latitude. And then we'll go to the longitude. That is the longitude for that intersection. Once we have everything entered in for this column, we'll click on the blue button, and that brings open this dialog box. I want to put in the date, and it says the format there. So we say 07/12/2013, and the data that we're going to enter will be the morning 7 to 7:15 15-minute period, and we'll go through box by box and enter in all of the movements. So this is other pedestrian bicyclists going southbound and turning right. And this is southbound going straight, and southbound turning left, and northbound going left, northbound straight, northbound right. So those are all of the movements. So let's just put in some. Let's say there was 12 bicyclists there, and you can hit tab to tab through these boxes. So let's say that there was 2 people on roller skates, 3 there, and 15 pedestrians there, 5, 6, whatever you have in your form from when you were out observing the data. Once you have it all ready to go, hit Submit Data. What that did is it put the data into this other tab down here. You see, I'm going to close this for now. So there were 3 tabs: Information, Data, and Chart down here on the Excel file. And when I hit Submit, it automatically entered the data into the sheet called Data. So I'll go through and I'll enter another one. Let's say that now this is at the 7/15 time period. Again, this was at 7/12/2013, at the 7/15 time period now though, and we had we observed 10 pedestrians there and 5 pedestrians there. Put down here 8 pedestrians, and I'll submit that, and it entered that in now. Notice that when I hit submit, it doesn't close the form because it knows that you're probably wanting to do a whole bunch for that same date at a time. So it's leaving the form open. If I want to clear the form entirely, I can hit clear form and it'll get rid of everything so that I can start anew. And whenever I'm done and ready to go, I hit close, and that finishes me off. Once the data is entered, we can begin to look at the charts to explore the data. These are pivot charts. This is a built-in functionality of Microsoft Excel. Everything you see on the screen here is with standard Microsoft Excel. There's tutorials about pivot charts and pivot tables. And after you've entered data, it's important to refresh it. So we click on the box here in the upper left, we go to Options, and we hit Refresh. That makes sure that it's the most up-to-date data included in the information. Now this was fictitious data and perhaps not very interesting, so I'm going to go to the Moscow count data. Here's the Moscow folder with all of the intersections. Let's look at 6th and Jackson. We'll open that up, and you see we entered the data, the latitude, longitude. There was a count taken on 10/13, and another one in the morning and in the evening, and then in 2012 there was also a count taken in the morning and in the evening. The data then for all of that information is there, and we'll look at the chart. This initial chart is showing just the grand total for all of the dates. We can filter that out if we want to look at just a certain date. We can do that with these filters on here. If we want to look at a trend of time, we could bring date down to here and mode up to there. Maybe we want this to be a line chart, so we change the chart type to line, and then it shows in observed counts for bicyclists was greater in 2012 than in 2011. Pedestrians was about the same both years. There's numerous things that can be done with pivot charts. This is all available to learn about in Microsoft Excel files. We can change the chart type. Maybe we want it to be a pie chart. So there is for the 2 years. Maybe we don't want data anymore. Let's just go back to mode. We'll do it for 2011. That is how the data looked for 2011, or I'd rather look at 2012. That's what it looked like for 2012. Maybe we want to even break it down by movement, so we can add movement here. So now it's showing 2012 that there was eastbound right, westbound through, all of the movements that occurred. If we want to look at just a particular time period, maybe we just want to do at 4 to 4:15. That was the breakdown for that time period. There are lots of things you can do with pivot charts, And the best way to learn actually is just to mess around with it. You're not going to break it. You just grab these things here and move them to different places and see what they do as you move them around, and you can change the chart type. Maybe we'd rather have it be a column like this. There's numerous things it can do. Again, you can't break the data. You can't break the tool. Once it's in this proper format, it's just reading from this data set and it's creating charts however you want to define the charts here on the pivot chart. Okay, now I'm going to go to the GIS tool. So we will open up our GIS. The first step with using the tool is to connect your folder. You do that by going to Art Catalog and collecting on Connect Folder, and wherever the folder is located, you go to Find and connect it. I already have it connected here, so this is that toolbox, and there are the three folders: the Excel file, the Mapping GIS, and the instructions. So if I expand Mapping GIS, see there's example data, tool data, and then the tool itself. And so you click on Map Count Data. It opens the tool with a description of what the tool does, and each field also has a description of what is requested. Display time period, the output files. This is the help, and you can hide the help or show the help. We'll hide the help for now. And the first thing it wants is the folder of Excel files. We'll navigate to the example data, and in there is the Moscow count data. And then we need the date here. We'll look at September the 13th, 2012. I also could have clicked on this button and navigated to the date this way. We'll leave it like that. And we do AM or PM. Let's do PM. And then we have the option of doing a 2-hour volume, a 1-hour peak volume, or a 15-minute peak volume. So if you do the 2-hour volume, it'll map all 2 hours of data. If you do the 1-hour peak volume, it'll find the maximum 1 hour within the 2 hours and map that. And if you do the 15-minute peak, it'll find the maximum 15 minutes during that PM observation period. Let's do the full 2-hour volume. And then it wants to know the location of the output. There are two output. One is a turn movement shapefile. So we'll go to example data output. We'll call this Moscow PM 2-hour, and this first one is going to be the turn movements. And then the next one output is the intersection point shapefile. We'll call this one Moscow PM 2-hour, and then these are the points. So there's a turn movement shapefile and an intersection point shapefile that's created. Then I hit OK, and the tool starts to run. This is the dialog box telling us what's happening. For every file, it is looking at the data and seeing if there was 2-hour data for the PM on that date. It so happens that the very first file it looked at in the folder, there wasn't data for that intersection. Then the next file there was, and so it mapped the data for that. Then it moved on to the third file. There was not information. So then it moved on to the fourth file, and there was not information. And then on the fifth file there is information, and it is currently mapping the fifth file and entering in the data. Let me open this up a little bit bigger so you can see what's happening here. So now it's going through file 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There was not data for the PM on that date for the 2-hour period. And now it's on to file 11. I think there's 28 files in the Moscow folder. So it's going to go through and map each one. It's about a minute for, or less than a minute for every intersection. So rather than wait for that, I will fast forward the video here. Okay, Now the tool has read through all of the files and is just beginning to finalize the output. In order to see what happens when it finalizes, I'll just move this over to the side a little bit. And there it mapped the data. It took 12 minutes and 6 seconds to go through the 28 files that were in that Moscow folder. I'll close that. This is what we're seeing is all of the intersections as they are mapped. There are 2 shape files that were created. One is a point shape file with a relative in thickness, in size, and color showing where the highest volumes were observed. And so we can zoom into this area. I'll turn that off, and that highlights the other shapefile, which is the turn movements. Let's zoom in now to 6th and Main, and there are the turn movements for that intersection. The attribute table for that shapefile has the name of the north-south road, the east-west road, the bike count, observed pedestrian count, other, and then all. We can add a base map to this. If we want the streets base map. There's the streets base map. So see, it doesn't line up perfectly, but for the most part it gets it right. This is 6th and Main. We could also add an imagery base map, then move the imagery on top of the streets. So there is the 6th and Main. And this is a good one to show for, we'll zoom to this layer, and it opens up the imagery for that and all of the intersections. The attribute table for the point file has the latitude and longitude, and then the total volumes for each of the modes that were observed. I'll turn off the imagery. You can see it there as